Good afternoon, everybody. We know that the time that we have to end is already 3 minutes to the time, so we'll try to manage this session so we don't extend it. So today we will be, the previous panel has looked into a lot of issues on data, and if you've been following, do you remember a few weeks ago when Meta threatened to leave Nigeria? Right. When Meta leaves Nigeria, what do you think would happen? But the reason why that happened was because there are questions that the Nigerian government were asking. So the government had fined Meta for some data infringement reasons. And so a few government agencies have then decided to take on Meta for its data violation practices in the country. And so Meta, instead of paying, decided to say, okay, we think our platform is very useful for Nigerians, so this fine of over $200 million is a lot of money. We cannot pay, so we'd rather exit the country. But it's not just happening in Nigeria, it's happening in a lot of other places. If you watch the news, do you remember last year in Brazil when Twitter was banned? Okay, I just wanted to set the stage because what we want to discuss in this panel is to look at what is happening around the world in terms of governance of digital technology, big tech, and what lessons for Nigeria and Africa in the next coming days. So to join me on this panel would be Dr. Toyosi Akirile Ogunshiji, the CEO, Rise Network. Maybe we should give it to her until she gets up stage. Yes. Then to also joining on the stage is Gabriel Odunsi, the program manager of Tech Society. We got notice that the Director General of NITDA, Dr. Kashifu Inoa Abdullahi, would be sending a rep. So when we have the rep, we would have him up stage. But to join us online on this panel is Barrister Timi Olagunju. Hi, Timi, are you online? Okay. He's joining us from Harvard. Okay, and then to join us is Victor Ebike Wenomo Ezedua from the Nigeria Data Protection Commission. We can give it to him as he comes up stage. Right. So the example that I was making reference to, especially from Brazil, because that's going to lead us into the conversation, was that when the government of Brazil identified that a few social media accounts were sharing political disinformation, they ordered Twitter, X, to delete those accounts. Twitter responded that it's against freedom of expression for them to be deleting users' accounts. So the government took them to court, and the Supreme Court in Brazil ordered that Twitter be banned in the country. So Twitter was banned, but Elon Musk responded that it's against the laws of democracy, the principles of democracy for a government to have such power. Because Elon Musk owns Starlink, an internet company, he then said for anybody in Brazil who owns Starlinks, they can have access to bypass the ban. So everyone who owns Starlinks in Brazil were able to bypass the ban, and they were using Twitter in the country. Who is right? The government of Brazil or Elon Musk? In Uganda, a few years ago, a few social media accounts were flagged for sharing disinformation. They tracked that those accounts were sharing disinformation to support the president of the country. So Meta flagged those accounts and deleted the accounts. The president was angry, so he banned social media throughout the election period because it was disrespectful for a technology company to be banning social media accounts. In Nigeria, in 2021, the Nigerian president had made a tweet threatening some people that he would treat them in the language they understand. And Twitter said that that was against its own community standards because that tweet could incite violence. And their tweet, one of the tweets in the thread of the Nigerian president was deleted by Twitter. Do I tell you what happened after that? Twitter was indefinitely suspended. But when it was going to be suspended, it was announced on Twitter by the government agency that Twitter has been indefinitely suspended. I could mention that on and on. In India, we all know what happened in Nepal recently. The government felt that when citizens were protesting, it was because they could organize online. So they banned all digital communications in Nepal. We all know what happened. So on this panel today, we want to really look at the governance of online platforms. Who has the power? Is it the government? Is it the big tech? And in all of these, where does it leave the users? Because at the end of the day, the users are at the receiving end of it. So I will start my question today from with Theosi, just to generally ask her, because she's worked a lot with, on skills and youth development and innovation, on when we have all of those issues and contestations, and government says that the reason why they need to regulate online platforms is because they need to protect national security. We all remember when Twitter was banned, Twitter was accused of being a foreign platform against Nigeria's corporate interests. Do you think that the skills that young people need and the tools that they use social media for, do you think regulating online platforms poses a risk in the AI age?
Thank you very much, Akitunde. Let me first thank you, because what you've done with setting the agenda for this panel is what would have cost us some good amount of money at Rise Networks in terms of a business idea validation. And so if we launch something in 6 months' time, you can feel free to feel like a ghost investor, if you like. My name is Dr. Toyosi Akirele Ogushiji, and I work for Rise Networks. Our work is at the intersection of responsible technology, civic innovation, specifically artificial intelligence, and youth development and education. Akin, you've set the agenda for a very complicated nexus of various issues, and I'll be grateful if you just give me some time to break them down properly. To the first question you asked about whether it's the government of Brazil that's right or Elon Musk, I'll say that the owner of the data is the right person. And in that context, I like to break it down because government shouldn't regulate our voices. But government also engages on behalf of citizens and the people of the country with the big technology companies. So if a government feels that a particular big tech company is giving their platform to terrorists or to people who have unscrupulous intentions towards our country, the government has a right to regulate as long as it works in the best interest of the people. The one that I will fully oppose is when government decides to regulate technology because it doesn't work for government, because government is funded by the funds of taxpayers, and government shouldn't stifle citizens or try to tell us what to do. So the second point you made around, governing technology and all of that, and the reason why I was thanking is because I am known to focus on solutions. I don't like to talk as much as I work. I like my work to show. So for example, in 2022, why did I decide to make Mation? M-A-K-E-M-A-T-I-O-N, Make an Automation. The first feature film on artificial intelligence out of Africa, showed in cinemas between April and May 2025, and has risen to become top 70 of all the highest grossing films out of Nigeria since Nigeria's independence. Now, why was that film important? Because I believe that evidence-based advocacy and storytelling is extremely critical to the democratization of anything. The biggest problem we have in Nigeria today is the fact that we're consistently mouthing data, AI, but if you actually find the people that know how to use AI, there are very few of them. And so the problem is that we have the people that even use AI believe that AI is limited to using AI to create their videos on TikTok and Instagram, and then other people are completely obsessed with ChatGPT. And AI is a more complex on multiple layers than ChatGPT. Now, why did I make that film? Because this generation will not learn with chalk and blackboard. This generation are the generation of baddies and vibes. And if we don't move with them in that direction, we will completely lose them. Okay? This is not a generation that you're going to put in a box and you're going to dictate to them that this is where you should go and this is what not to do. They are a completely recalcitrant generation. It explains why 5 years ago I would have been on this panel in high heel shoes and suits. Today I'm dressed completely wearing sneakers and all because I need to look like the people that I'm building for, the next 1 billion young people of Africa, right? And you really cannot build for people if you don't understand their nuances and their problems. So the problem with data and democracy in Africa and Nigeria specifically is that data has to be in the hands. You cannot control what you cannot measure. Right? And the problem is that, number one, in this country, you have NIN, you have BVN, you have HIV, you have all sorts of, abbreviations. And I got to the airport yesterday. I'm trying to make a payment for excess luggage. I'm not able to pay because the POS is not working. I have to go and transfer through someone. And so you are wondering, in a country of over 200 million people, we don't have a single harmonized data repository system in this country. Right. With a single fingerprint, I should be able to get anything done in this country. Right. And that is the answer to this problem, Aki. That until the solution is not to sit on panels and discuss what the big tech companies are not doing for us. They are built for profit. The solution is that Nigeria needs to build its own Twitter, its own Facebook, its own TikTok. We have, in China, they don't use Facebook, they have WeChat. They have Douyin. China has its own social media platforms and it has the population to power it. With over 200 million people, Nigeria, the young people in this room, that if you give them the tools and the digital literacy skills, they'll build TikTok in 6 months. And so, but if by middle of 2026, I call you Nataki, I'm inviting you to come and attend the launch of the YouTube of Africa. You would know that, a revolution is about to happen. The only way to always respond to Western powers is to show them that we can build our own locally in this environment with our own local talent. Artificial intelligence and technology that is not built in our languages, that is not built in our culture, that is not built in based on our priorities, will never serve our people.
Thank you very much, Toyosi. Because when we talk about sovereignty, we're talking about the powers that we have over the infrastructures around. And you're saying that instead of bothering about external tools, we should think about the ones that we have control over.
We should build. We shouldn't think. And we shouldn't organize conferences. We should just build them.
We should build. All right.
Freaking build them.
All righty. So, and I think that leads me to Timmy. Timmy, if you can hear me, from what Toyosi said, while we are building, what we currently have on the ground, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, what legal tools do African states need to govern these models that are built outside their jurisdiction? Because where we are building, it will take a while to build. So the ones that we currently have, if you follow the news, in December last year, it was said that there are 65 million posts deleted in Nigeria online. And that, nobody knows which post. Nobody knows what led to the deletion. But they just knew that there was a regulation in NITDA code that empowers such to happen. So, Timmy, from your perspective, what legal frameworks do we have right now to regulate or to govern, because regulation and governance are different, to govern or regulate technology tools that are built outside our jurisdiction?
Thank you so much for the question and the background, as well as the invite. And also thank the panelists, as well as Dr. Toyosi. It's good to see you again. We saw several weeks in New York. And for your point, building on Dr. Toyosi's point and your question, the first key thing here is this. We talk about digital sovereignty a lot. And like she said, digital sovereignty is to be built on people. When it is built on people, the way we think about governance changes, right? And that brings me back to the question around tools, right? And so when we look at the whole governance or regulation thing, first is that most often people think that regulation is the way. I'm a lawyer, and a policy person, but I'm not for regulation. And the reason is this, because in our context as Africans, and particularly our context as Nigerians, right? One thing regulation will do is that it will give certain foreign companies advantage over that of our own local companies that are just coming up. And one of the things that we don't understand is that sometimes you see that the big companies are the ones pushing for more regulation. And the reason they do that sometimes is that when they see that they've crossed a threshold and they build capacity to a level, what they then do is that they start advocating for regulations in a way that stifles the small ones from being able to meet those thresholds. And so, because they have the capacity and the tools and the finance to be able to meet those thresholds. And so, I believe, firstly, that it's important to strengthen existing legal frameworks, as well as other frameworks that are already on ground, right? So currently, one of the key tools that we have as Africans or as Nigerians is the Data Protection Act itself and the institutions around it, right? However, when it comes to Africa, what we need to do, instead of calling for more we need to look at the other countries, because 3/4 of the countries in Africa in the last decade, right, have data privacy regulations. Those regulations could be national regulations or sectorial regulations. But over 8 countries do not even have single data protection regulations or laws. And that's where we need to start from, right? How do we ensure that the countries that have built something are able to support the other African countries to also build something? Because the fulcrum of the conversation around the digital age is data. And the past panelists I've listened to have brilliantly highlighted that concept. Now, aside that, is also that we need to strengthen algorithm auditing. And that is built on the concept of goals. So, for example, right, how do you know that Facebook as a platform might be discriminating against, say, Nigerians, in the sense that some of us might have experienced where someone in, say, the UK or the US sends you an Instagram or Facebook request, and there is a chatbot that tells the person that beware, take precautions in case this person might be fraudulent and things like that, right? But that same notice does not happen if the person is sending to another person within either the UK or the US or the global north. So the key question is, audits. How do we discover this kind of discrepancies? We need to carry out audits, algorithm auditing, to be a key part of the strengthening of the frameworks for as a tool for ensuring our digital sovereignty. And one of the key challenges with that also is the fact that you have a situation where we don't have a clear goal. So is it gender? What is our gender policy, right? What is our policy of our Aquin North Star, upon which we are now able to audit platforms and say, do these platforms meet the standards or principles that we want to drive as a people? These are key concepts. Now, another key tool that we do not look at is contracts. And I'm quite excited at this conversation because you have a few media people in the house, right? And interestingly, you had a recent contract between Meta and NDPC over, a court case that they had. Now, contract is an important tool to drive partnerships as well as accountability between these particular platforms and other stakeholders within regions. For example, in terms of news, you and I know that because of most of these platforms, there's been a significant decline in the revenue of news platforms in the world, right, including African countries. But how are African news platforms being compensated for that decline in news as a result of the fact that people no longer go to, news platforms and the likes, or, newspaper stands and the likes to get news, but go to this social media platforms to get news? Australia has done something about it.
So Timmy,
Canada has done something about it. Yes, please.
Yeah. So I just wanted to
yes,
pick you on that a little, yes, and then you can respond to this, because a lot of the things you're
absolutely
bringing here speaks to the fact that what we don't own, we don't have control over. Absolutely. And a lot of and I think that's also a very punchy statement that Toyosi made. My question to you then, just while you are having that thought, is we have Nairaland, which is pretty much like our own Reddit.
Yes.
Do you think that the consume foreign things ideology in Nigeria would really make Nigerians consume locally built tools over the ones that are foreign, already established?
So whether Nigerians will consume apparently it's about value. I think that's the underlying thing. And if the value particularly resonates, the truth about it is, look at the fintech sector. Much people do not know that, for example, Brazil, understudies Nigerian fintech sector and uses the framework of Nigerian fintech sector to drive its own fintech industry. Because we tend to undervalue what we have, which is what Dr. Toyosi stated around storytelling. Now, look at the fintech sector, for example. Flutterwave, Paystack, and the likes, right, are key platforms that are not just used within the borders of Nigeria, but outside Nigeria. So it's about value, right? However, there are certain key tools that can help accentuate those values, which brings us back to the questions, for example, procurement. How do we use procurement as a tool to drive an African solution value? How much of the budget of Nigeria is allocated to purchasing Nigerian-made software platforms and things of that nature?
Right.
In fact, interestingly, I'm from Oyo State, and interestingly, I recently saw where the governor of the state went as far as Europe to look for a platform to partner with schools in Oyo State to help drive schooling and education accountability. And I was wondering, when we have platforms all over the country, who could actually do that? And so we need to really understand the power of procurement as a means. And you can see CGID, what you did in just a few weeks or days, you were able to bring together solutions. Imagine that if CGID could have done that, imagine what the government could have done with using procurement as a tool to drive the African or the Nigerian.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Timmy. I will come back to you because I think you've helped me with a question I will be getting, giving to Gabriel. So Gabriel, there's been all of this, the central idea that we wanted to have here is on digital sovereignty, but something very important is not here, which is sovereignty really is about owning our thing and all of that. Do you think that while we are waiting or while we're working on building and all, and then Timmy talked about procurement, do you think civil society can do anything to push government in the direction of supporting local building? Because if you really need to build ours, if you really need to advance digital sovereignty, then it's important for the demand side to be very punchy and active in pushing policies to the right direction. How do you see civil society play this role?
All right. Thank you very much, today. Good afternoon, everyone. While the conversation was going on, one of the things we were talking about is that the government is in bed with big tech from outside the country, and this brings to mind what happened before slavery. We saw entities coming to African countries, and they sold the idea of take mirror, give us your people. It's the same thing. Take something, give us your own data. And first of all, the government has to take ownership in such a way that they need to understand that local things or the people itself has to be priority. Either the people's data, either the people's intelligence. Like, these are some of the ideas that I'm showcased here today. Well, there is nothing bad if the government comes in place and say that, oh, these ideas that are being built here, how do we scale these ideas so that when we talk about owning our own data, having our thing localized, it starts from things like this. So if, first of all, the government has to own into the fact that we need to give room or give space to locally owned ideas, locally owned innovations. When that comes in place, then we also need to add capacity to those who are people who are doing things already. You need to build their capacity in such a way that they are able to scale out on what they are doing. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you. I think a follow-up that I have is, do you see citizens play a role in all of this?
To an extent.
To an extent.
Now, this is what I mean. When I say to an extent, I mean that based on what I've said earlier, he who pays the piper takes his tone. He who does anything would determine what is done with the citizen. Right. Now, for citizens to be able to, in quotes, have mouth over what is going on, there has to be a case of accountability from either the platform or either the government. There has to be a case of transparency. Now, earlier today, we were talking about you are trying to sign up for an application, and there is a whole lot of language that you cannot read or that you cannot interpret. All you have to do is to agree to that thing. What is the place of breaking those things down in such a way that citizens can understand and have power to choose what they have to choose or not? And there's something called safety by design that needs to be in place when this platform are being designed. Now, how do I mean safety by design? Now, you are trying to design a platform that collects data from somebody. You should give them the option to actually either come into that platform to choose if they want to give in their data to you, or if they don't want to give their data to you. And there's something called dark patterns. Sometimes I use a platform for streaming my audio in back home. No, for streaming, like when I'm doing an online interview and I want to stream to the public. That platform, when you want to end your meeting, when you want to end, the yes part should be the most visible thing. There's a day I forgot, I thought I clicked the right thing, only for me to leave my streaming going on for over 2 hours and I didn't end that thing. So there are designs that are being put in place whereby it takes control from you and it gives control to the person giving you that data.
Right.
So citizens have no power over things they can't control.
Right. Thanks. I think that's very important. And you're bringing me to Victor. So Victor, the Nigeria Data Protection Commission has done a lot, in a short while. And one of the very interesting experience for most social media or digital users is that if you want to sign up on any platform, you don't want to read the terms of service, because the 1, 2, 3 minutes that takes you to pretty much read the terms, you are like, no, agree. Just scroll to the last page and then agree. And a lot of times, you're signing up to something that probably would use your data, for some commercial reasons without you knowing, because too many people don't care. When Meta had the face-off with the government on the fines and all, NPDC and the Federal Competition Commission was saying that they are actually fighting for the citizens. But when Meta said they would leave the country, citizens were like, oh, what can the government just leave Meta because they cannot take away Facebook and WhatsApp? So what's NDPC doing to strengthen end-to-end data protection and also promote data literacy, so people know how to deal with all of those complexities with data?
Okay. Good afternoon. On behalf of the National Commissioner of the Nigerian Data Protection Commission, I would like to say a big thank you to CJID for organizing this AIsummit. On the part of NDPC, we actually are utilizing the extraterritorial means to strengthening the Nigeria's digital sovereignty in area of big tech companies like the TikToks, like the X and Meta and so on and so forth, that want to benefit from the Nigeria large market. They 3 years ago, when the NDPC was not in existence, like ACT as of now, it was do as you like and all of that. But now the NDPC has mandated and is ensuring that all of these foreign tech companies, they are like mandated to register with the commission in area of filing their yearly audits, not just their financial records, but their technical audits with the commission. And also there is by default there's a by default no sharing of data that's already in the NDPA Act. So as a company that is utilizing the data of Nigerians, you are not of that power to share our data out of the country, except you have a particular level of adequacy within. And we know some of them, the binding corporate rules and clauses and all of that. Or if the country in particular where you are transferring this data to, they have a DPA already in place. And in area of the digital literacy, like you said, the Commission is doing a lot. I think as of 2 weeks ago, we launched a DPAC, that's a digital privacy awareness campaign across Nigeria. It was launched in Nile University, which in place is also having a data privacy club. So over 7 universities in Nigeria have established privacy clubs that is going on tackling the university students, informing them about what data and what digital literacy is, encouraging them because, they are the next workforce in the country. And if we can get to their minds as of now, engaging them in digital literacy, I think in the next 20 years, Nigeria will definitely be okay.
Right. Thank you very much. And I think I would just ask a follow-up question, but I would like to contextualize it. When COVID happened, the UK government wanted to build contact tracing apps to be able to know, remember the period? But when they wanted to do it at the time, it needed to build it on Apple Store and all of those things. But they realized that they needed to get access to data from Apple. And the government, it became a very complicated process because if we want to build, to solve health challenges, and we're relying on the infrastructure, of big tech platforms. Today, even if we want to build locally, we would rely on cloud infrastructure that are not locally owned. Right? So when there are infractions and, when big tech platforms are still exchanging our contact overseas, in violation of the DPC Act, Data Protection Act rather, what realistic sanctions are there in place when we rely, even when we indeed need those structures to function as a country?
Realistic sanctions,
right,
from the Commission?
Yes.
Well, actually, it has been encouraged for Nigeria-based infrastructures. The Communications Commission is doing a great job alongside Galaxy Backbone,
right,
to bring in data centers in Nigeria, right, to make sure we don't host in South Africa, in Kenya, and in California.
Right.
I know there's a data center right now in Kano. They launched one December in Lagos. So all of this is in a bit of what our panelists said, right, actually, that we need to build all of these infrastructures here in Nigeria so that we don't get to transfer our data to, right, jurisdictions that our laws will not govern the safeguard of our data. In area of sanctions, the Commission, actually, we follow a remediation system where, right, we don't just want to sanction, right, because it would end up chasing away investment.
Mm-hmm, right.
So instead, we do what they call PAC, Pre-Action Conference, where we get to invite these defaulters to the Commission to walk them through the processes and what they are actually defaulting. And it, right, always ends up beneficial because they end up complying and also curbing whatever meant that they would have ended up being defaulting with. Yes.
Right. Thank you very much. I think I would just pass this to Toyosi. But before then, I wanted to ask if there are questions. Okay, because I'm looking at the time and we need to. So I will only take two questions because I will ask my other questions and they get their closing thoughts. So I'll take you, then I'll take you, ma'am. Yeah. So. And let me know who you are directing the question to.
afternoon, everybody.
Oh, wow. Oh, there are two. Okay, that's fine. It was already going to go. That's fine.
Okay, my name is Grace Ajato. I work as a program implementation officer for Digital Initiative for Innovation and Development. So I'll be directing my question to, from Tech Hive, yeah. So we have been, yeah.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Okay.
Tech Society, sorry. So we have been talking about this issue of consent. But I feel that there's a particular conversation we are not looking at. Most times, people get to really read what these policies are about, but then there's no room to say, use this, don't use it before you get to the next stage. So sometimes consent is not even accepting that this is, okay, giving permission. It's like that is the only option you have. If you want to use a particular AI tool, you need to deliver on a project, and somebody, you call a friend, like, I am in a meeting, I need to get this work done, submit a policy brief, and I call a friend, can you help me with a app? And the person tells me this app is the only app that are free. If you notice something, most app, you need to pay for it. Now you get a particular app that is free, and the thing is telling you consent. Your mindset is not thinking about consent at the moment. You just want to get your work done.
Right.
So how are we going to tackle this aspect of, can there be a method whereby there is a room for you to pick what you want and what you don't want before you go to the next step? Because consent is not even accepting. It's like, that is the only, in fact, it's not consent. Let us give it another name.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. Gabriel, there's a question for you, but I think it's sort of like going to go to a number of the panelists. Thank you for that question. Yes, sir.
My name is Olaide Abioye, head of station Crest FM, Ibadan. My question is to Dr. Toyosi, because you're so passionate about local content, having our own infrastructure and framework. But looking at technological ability in Nigeria, Akitore mentioned having cloud. Everything we do is always on the foundation that these foreign tech giants are built over time. So how do we come from out of this cobweb that they've actually built around us, that we can never do anything tech-wise without them? How do we build our own infrastructure?
Right.
And that is to data.
It was just one question for you, but you are sending 2 questions here. All right, thank you. I'm sorry, I can't take any further question. So, Gabriel, the question is, there are free tools, there are premium tools. When you want to give your consent onto the use of any of those tools, you don't have an option. So what do we do? That's a question.
All right, what do you do? Apparently, I don't think there's anything you can do, because one, the price for you using that platform is that yes that you are clicking. So we need to be sincere. We just need to be factual. Now, the question I want to ask now is, from all the presentation, all of the innovations that was presented today, you took screenshots of those platforms, or you took note of them so that you can go back home and go and explore them? Raise up your hand. Now, that's the problem. These are free tools that are available, locally made. We did not save it. That means that it is going to end here at CJI, this conference. So that's something alternate for us. And also, what we need to do is we need to build locally, just like she has advocated.
Right. Thank you, Gabriel. Thanks. So I think I'll pass this to Toyosi. There's a question, so you just go for it. We want to build, but the infrastructure to build on is not locally owned.
Listen, the problem is not technology. The problem is unaccountable technological infrastructures. Systems that are built to keep oppressors in power and not work for the people. Listen, everything that everybody has said on this panel today, there are many ways to skin a cat. But if you think about the singular point that you're going to take away, the answer is in building our local technologies. Everything everybody has said. My brother from NDPC talked about sanctions and bringing people that have violated our data protection laws to a conference. How? To a conference to do what? Sanction them. Listen, the problem is when we, and you asked me a brilliant question around technological capacity in the country. Can we build it? It always seems impossible until it's done. I went to Harvard. I did my PhD in AI in this country at the Nigerian Defense Academy. the type of sophisticated technology infrastructure built at the engineering department of the Nigerian Defense Academy will rival those of China and any other country in this world. The problem is information, access. I went to the NDA. There are brilliant young people in this country. Hold on. Brilliant young people in this room. And if you are a software developer, you are a UI UX designer, you are a front-end, back-end, I'm looking for you. Tomorrow morning, you can start work because we need to build. Look, we have this conversation. The problem is that other countries like China, like Singapore, like Vietnam are building. In Nigeria, we are talking and thinking. That's the difference.
Thank you, Toyosi.
No, I'm not done. Baba today, Akin today.
I know.
You didn't bring me from Lagos so that you can come and regulate my voice like government. Don't be trying me. Please, my audience, should I continue or I should stop? Majority carries the day, Akin today. But I'll be done. I'm a Democrat. Mabino. Listen, my people. We cannot control what we didn't build. The young lady asked about consent. The first question, I laughed a lot while all of us were speaking because the answer is very simple. When I was making Make Mention in this country, a crew of 300 people, the first feature film on artificial intelligence in this country was directed by a 29-year-old Yoruba boy. He didn't go to school abroad. He went to Covenant University. If we allowed Americans or Finnish or Canadians to work with us when we're making the film, all the credit will go to them. People watched the film and people watched Make Mention and said, this is an amazing film. But guess what? If one person from outside Nigeria touched that film, the whole credit would have gone to them. Why? Because we have never done it before. For writing the script, we use MetaGPT to stem a lot of the stories, even the songs. UNDP one of my friends who works in UNDP put young people in a room. Go to Spotify. The 2 rap songs on the Make Mention full soundtrack was made in 10 minutes. We're using a Sunom Music AI app. The cast reveal of Make Mention, which would have cost somewhere around 10 million, was done in less than 3 hours, leveraging Google LLMs. Took the picture of RMD, Ali Nuhu, Shafi Bello, and trained AI models to generate the AI versions of them to make the first AI cast reveal in this country. It always seems impossible until it's done. If the government focuses on the important priorities in this country, let us stop organizing this event and that event. Look for, when we are doing STEM education, go to Singapore and go and see how they are building STEM farms and training young people. Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, said that in America, if you needed tooling engineers in America, you will fill conference rooms. But in China, if you need tooling engineers, you will fill football fields. China doesn't want to be on the list of top 20 best universities in the world. Anytime you see video or pictures from China, you see only factories, Abi. You see industries. You see scale. Huge scale. That's what we need to be doing in this country. It's not so much about talking about these issues. And I disagree that we cannot build in Nigeria because we don't have enough people. We're not looking for those people. And when we find them, we don't pay them well. And so we're losing them to foreign companies who are paying them remote work salaries that many of Nigerian companies cannot compete with.
Thank you, Toyosi. There's one important point you made about software developers in the room, that they will start work tomorrow. I think that's important. Because
I'm sorry, you talked about Nairaland and why Nairaland is like Reddit.
Right.
And why can Nairaland become like Reddit?
Right.
Nairaland is a big platform, but UI UX design is the issue. If you give it better UI UX design like Facebook and TikTok, and then give it proper marketing budgets,
right.
Oh my blade.
Alrighty, I think, I personally think that is why organizing the conference is also important, because conversations that trigger the next actions are being held. So I do think that if the owners of Nairaland are here, they could potentially just air ideas that could change things. So I'll go to Timmy. This will be my last question to you and your wrapping thoughts. So, and I don't want to honestly trigger any new question because I think the panel was meant to talk about sovereignty, and I think we've really come to a point that we need to build locally and build locally platforms that can become globally relevant tools. And an example could be TikTok. TikTok, was built in Singapore, China, that level of engagement. And it became fully blown. And when the US saw that TikTok was becoming very, very big, the US then said that because we don't own this platform and we can't start building a new platform, then we need to own it. And he said, we would take the US component of TikTok because there is already a market in the US. So we can use this process to get US local investors to get TikTok to divest and then to become. So the response was to then get on that process. So I wanted to ask you, Timmy, in Nigeria, in most African countries, we are conveniently happy to use foreign platforms because building is tiring. We don't have structures to get that in place. And even so, what do you see as a policy solution that we can take away as advocacy point or action point on the realistic way to build without losing opportunities to scale? So.
Thank you so much for that question, and quite interesting conversation. Conversation enriches the understanding, but solitude and building is done in solitude, and solitude is the school of geniuses. That being said, right, when it comes to this context, right, we must understand that there are two folds. They are the consumers of digital tools, and they are the producers of digital tools. They are also producers who are also consumers. And there is negotiation power on both sides, right? So as producers of tools, for example, you have in the value chain, right? For example, in the LLM value chain, you're talking of several things. You're talking of rare minerals, right? Rare earth minerals. You're talking of energy, right? You're talking of capacity, technical capacity. I mean, data scientists and researchers, as it were, of a couple of things, right? But the point is that it's important to first understand what is your unique value or unique selling point as a country or as a continent. So, because you cannot be everywhere. And the truth about it is this idea of we want to build, yes. But the truth is that the power, the technology itself is distributed. Power in technology solutions is distributed. Some persons have the rare earth minerals. Some other persons have capacity to turn those rare earth minerals into something valuable. Some people have capacity to do other things. Now, it's important to understand the unique selling point. Now, and I'll give an instance. For example, China and its discussion. You are someone who understands geopolitics, right?
Right.
And the geopolitics of the conversations between China and the US right now has been built in favor of China, not just because China is producing tools, right? Because it's number 2 after the US in terms of producing, but because China controls rare earth minerals. And those rare minerals are not just from China, it's also the capacity for China to be able to control the mining of those minerals in African countries. And so it's important to understand this conversation. Now, let's not talk about the conversation, for instance, Qatar and Saudi Arabia.
Right.
You see that the last conversation they had, Donald Trump, was a conversation around energy. That, look, it's a difficult thing. It's very easy to build data centers. The challenge with data centers is energy source, right? And the bureaucracy around it, which is a challenge in the US. Now, the UAE and Saudi is saying we have that capacity. So bring investments in building data centers here. That is it. Now, when you talk about chips, for example.
Thank you, Timmy. I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
Wrap in 1 minute, sir.
I'm trying to round off the point. Yes. He's building chips, right? And so the point there is understand India is the number 3 consumer of AI products in the world, and they're using that as a basis for negotiation to draw in investment for production. And so it's important to understand, where do we stand and how can we drive our unique selling points from those instances? So it's a whole gamut beyond just, and then let's talk about quickly the challenges of AI and the likes. I think we talk a lot about the challenges, but we need to start talking as well as about the opportunities and the productivity capacity that AI tools can help us drive, even though we do not develop them within. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much, Timmy. I really appreciate your comments and thoughts, but I'll go to Victor. I honestly don't want to ask you any question, just your closing thoughts.
My closing thought is basically to inform every person in this room that you are a data subject and you need to exercise your rights as a data subject. And also, security now on the cyber warfare and the whole internet, it starts from you yourself. You need to change that password that has been old for over 1 year. You need to put 2FA in all your social media platforms. Also, I see here today that there were a whole lot of artificial intelligence softwares and all of that development. You need to carry out data privacy impact assessment. I'm sure if I should ask how many of you did DPIAs on your softwares, many will say they haven't because they don't have the money yet, because it's not on a large scale. But you cannot predict how the growth of your innovation will be. Today, it can be housing just 100 data of persons. Tomorrow, it can be housing 1 million data. So you need to carry out DPIA to know where these privacy risks will come out from,
right,
so that you can look for ways and all to cover up these gaps, basically. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victor. Gabriel?
I'm so sorry that I have to say this. I think we need to, yes, I know the word data subjects is used rightly, but I think it brings to a point whereby they become just people who share their information, whose information are stored, but who lacks the power over their data. I'm so sorry. No, I'm not criticizing you. I'm just saying that where I'm going to is there needs to be a form of education that educate people that you have. Even in the Data Protection Act, there's a part that says that you have the right to withdraw your data, you have the right, but people do not know that. People just only feel
so
that.
We should invest in education.
That's
right.
what I'm going
okay,
to.
Right. Thank you, Gabriel. Thank you very much. Toyosi. In 1 minute. And I'm not regulating you.
I don't have any closing shots. I'm just going to say that in the Media and Development Conference 2026, this panel today is not just going to be about talk. By this time next year, we will launch the TikTok and the YouTube of Africa in this conference. And if I don't keep to my word, don't vote for me as your president in 2043. Thank you very much.
When we started this conversation, it was about global tech companies, the very important utility that they bring to our lives, but we are living here with the energy to think about how our data contributes to the dominance, and most importantly, how we could build locally. And Toyosi is saying that software developers and tech folks in the house, you have to build. She's looking for you. CJID is saying, we are looking for you. So ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you listening for the last panel for today. We would not stop here. We will keep the conversation going. Thank you very much, my panelists. Thank you very much, Timmy, for joining online. And this brings the session to a close. Thank you.